enshrine healthcare as a right and not just a privilege. And unfortunately, in the state of Florida, you still have folks who are terrified of getting sick. They're terrified of it. They're terrified of getting sick because if they get sick, they can't go to work. And if they cannot go to work, they can't earn a wage. And if they can't earn a wage, their lights go off. Rent or mortgage doesn't get paid. This is the lived experience of folks in our state. And so all that to say, y'all, elections have consequences. Elections have consequences. The last 2 races for governor in this state were lost by what? Fewer than 1%. Governor Rick Scott won re-election even after overspending us by $100 million by fewer than 70,000 votes. Between your Facebook friends and mine, we got that. Right? Between our accounts, we have that. And so what we have to do is motivate and inspire our voters to show up and to show out, and we can win again. We have the registration advantage in Florida. There are more Democrats than there are Republicans if you were just looking at party lines. But I believe in 2018, there are going to be so many disaffected Republicans, we're going to have to make room for them. And I'm happy to have that challenge. What I want you to know about me is that I'm a fighter. That if you allow me the opportunity to lead this party as this party's nominee, you are not going to have a shrinking violet and a nominee. I understand what it means to take on the NRA. Why? Because they had me in court for not 1 but 2 years. Why? All because I said, in my city, you cannot fire a gun in the city park. You can't fire a gun in a park where our kids play and our families picnic. Yet that was too revolutionary, and apparently too threatening, and radical an idea and a notion. So the legislature allowed them to sue us, and they took us through court for 2 years. Well, I want you to know we beat them at the circuit court, we beat them at the appellate court, and we said we'd see them in the Supreme Court if they wanted to continue the legal fight, right? But guess what? That means we have to be willing to stand up. That means that we have to be willing to stand up for what we believe in. Why is it that a 5 million member NRA can run roughshod over the state of Florida, and over this country for a matter of fact? It's because we've allowed them to. So we've got to stand up and push for common sense gun reforms, because their right to own a gun and anybody else's in this room's right to own a gun shouldn't trump my family's right to be able to go to a park and to go back home without being shot or killed, right?
Yeah.
That should be defended. So we've got rights too. And when this president and this governor went after immigrants, I stood up and said that you cannot call people illegals, right? People are not illegal. Actions may be. People are not illegals, but they call us that. Because if you can take away a person's humanity, you can do anything to them. Right? So we have to be willing to push back on that. That's why my community is a safe community. Our sheriff said that you cannot come into his jail unless you have a court-ordered subpoena that says you can take someone out of it. We don't arrest people based off their personhood. We arrest you when you break the law, when you show up, when you are a threat to society. And you know what? That's who we are as a Democratic Party. We believe in access and opportunity for all people. And what we deserve in this country is a comprehensive immigration reform bill that will bring to an end the suffering of 20 million people in this country. When marriage equality got approved at the Supreme Court, and county after county said that they would no longer issue marriage licenses to anyone, I stood up and said, come to Tallahassee. We'll marry you, because we recognize that love is love. We did that in our capital city. My city was one of the cities voted by Wallet Hub as one of the best places in Florida to start a new business. Our unemployment rate sits around 4%. We were voted in All-America City in my first year as mayor. Not because we are a perfect place, because we have challenges. We're dealing with a wave of crime in my community, but I'm happy to say today that the crime rate as we sit today is 14.5% lower than it was last year at this same period. And we're continuing to do the work that we need to do to bring that in line. But as a community, we'll be faced with our challenges. The question is not whether or not we get challenges, it's what we do about them. Do we lean into them? Do we try to figure a way to fix it, not at its symptom, but at its core? And we know that one of the contributors to crime is poverty. Low education and achievement rates, food insecurity, health insecurity. And unfortunately, our state is rampant with that. We also, unfortunately, in this state, as you heard me talk about in the video, have an unforgiving criminal justice system. Unforgiving, which is why I am a strong defender and believer that we need to restore rights to 1.6 million former felons who exist in this state. We have to restore rights. We have a Jim Crow era criminal justice system and rights restoration process in the state of Florida, and you can tell them I said it. Why? Because if you've ever taken a minute to look at a video from one of those restoration clemency board meetings with the governor and the other 3 cabinet members, I watched them. And you had a young person get up there before the governor and the cabinet, and the governor asked the question, when was the last time you had a drink? Have you ever smoked? When was the last time you got a driving citation? Well, I'm not going to vote to restore your rights today, but I want to applaud you on the progress that you've made. When does that make sense? It doesn't make sense in 2017, y'all, and we can do something about it by signing those petitions and making sure that rights restoration bill gets on the Constitution. And in November, we put it on the Florida Constitution. I'm going to end here, y'all. I believe with every fiber of my being that Democrats can win back in the state in 2018. I believe that. But I believe it that we're going to have to do it not by running Republican light, but by running as true Democrats on what we believe and inspiring our voters to show up and show up at the politics. I don't think we're going to get there. I don't believe we're going to get there by shrinking from who we are. We shouldn't be afraid of who we are and what we stand for. The reason why we're not winning is we're not getting our voters out. And the reason why our voters are not coming out is because if it's indiscernible how their lives are going to change by our nominee getting elected versus the other guy staying in there, then they're staying home. We have to make the difference clear. We got to let folks know what it is that we stand for, what we believe in. And don't get me wrong, I don't mean we don't cooperate with folks. There are a lot of ways in which we can cooperate, but we don't have to lose the fiber of our being and what it is that we believe in. We've got to inspire people to agree with us. Why? Because the economy does better when Democrats are in control. The environment does better when Democrats are in control. Healthcare is better when Democrats are in control. I'm not making it up, y'all. Go check the record. Go check the record. So we've got to do the difficult work of getting out there and talking to people, encouraging them about who we are, letting them know that we deserve to be trusted again in government and politics and with the opportunity to lead. I want to ask the voters, not only in this room, but across the state, the only thing in life my mama ever told me to ask for. Ever. And that's a chance. And I will promise them that every day we're going to try to make them proud of the chance that they give me to lead this state. I don't believe that you should have to come from a famous family or be able to stroke your own check to be governor of the state of Florida. I believe that we can do it the old-fashioned way. You go around, you talk to people, you let them know who you are, and you encourage their support. The other thing we got to do, y'all, is we got to go everywhere. This is the 67 counties, over 400 cities in the state of Florida. We can't camp out in 3 counties. Y'all know it well here. Seminole matters. Sim-Dems matter. Which means we gotta be willing to do that. A few months ago, I visited this area called the Villages. How many of y'all know about the Villages? I hear y'all laughing. Some of y'all know about the Villages. The Villages, if you don't know, is a planned retirement community. I don't know where we are, but it's northwest of here. And I told folks I was going to the Villages, and they nearly laughed me out the room. Well, Gillum, what you doing at the Villages? I said, I'm going to the Villages because there are voters in the Villages. And we showed up for a meet and greet thinking we might meet 50 or 100 folks there. And we showed up and the room was teeming with over 500 retirees, almost not another face that looked like mine. And that's okay. And that's okay. They got a strong Democratic club over there. And I told them about my vision for the state of Florida and the fact that they ought to make sure that we give Democrats a chance to compete and to win again in the state of Florida. And when I finished, the elderly gentleman got up and pulled a 20 out, waving around saying, Gillum, I believe you ought to be the next governor of the state of Florida. And And I want to tell you, I got an affinity for $20 bills. My mother's first contribution to my race when I ran for city commission was $20. And she told me not to spend it all in one place. But I got elected in that very improbable election as the youngest person ever elected at the age of 23 to the Tallahassee City Commission. But back to the sermon. To close it out, he says, I believe you ought to be Governor Gillum. And he says, if anybody else in the room believes Gillum ought to be governor, I want you to give him $5, $10, or $20. And when they finished, y'all, they had raised nearly $6,000 in $5, $10, and $20 contributions in the place that they told me I wasn't supposed to go. Right? Which is why we have to be willing to go everywhere and talk to everybody. Because you don't win this state by treating it like it's the Electoral College. You don't go to this county and skip that county. Go to this county and get that county. The one who wins is the one who's going to get one more vote than the next person. And that vote may come from anywhere. So we got to go there and we have to be willing to compete. I want you to know I'm not going to be outworked in this race. I don't care what nobody says. I've never been outworked in my races and we're not going to start now. And what we're doing, I mean, just tonight we're in Orlando. We're here right now. Then I'm driving back up to make sure my kids' covers are back on them so they don't wake up with a cold in the morning. And then we're going to get back out on the road and head to South Florida and do the same thing over and over and over again. And we're going to do this for the next year because voters deserve to hear from us and hear what it is that we believe and what we think. We've lost this state by 1 point, y'all. And I believe that it's not about the candidates' names who are on the ballot. That 1 point is the difference between our kids being told that they attend failure factories. That 1 point is the difference between 1.5 million people getting health care. That 1 point difference, 70,000 votes, is the difference between whether or not roughly half the people of this state say they can make ends meet or not. That's what's at stake in this election. And we have an opportunity to stand in that gap for them. So Democrats, if y'all believe like me that we can win in 2018, let me hear you. In 2018, we gotta go to work. We gotta register voters. We have to give our time and our treasure to make sure that we elect Democrats in the state of Florida so that we get a Democratic governor